Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, with my guests, I like to go back to the start, actually. So, what was your childhood like, and when did music take a big impact in your life?
Um, Really, right from the start, music. My dad was huge, big fan of loads of stuff around at the time in the early '60s, like the Beatles, the Stones. He had big record collection from the '50s. So when I was like 3 or 4, it was always around me. So I sort of hooked into that straight away, and then guess by the mid late '60s, I got into the top 40. All the songs there. It was what was around. It was like so engrossed with it, and then you just grow into as you get older into what's going on around you with it, and it just followed on from there, really.
You said there that your dad was a big fan of the '60s music, like the Stones, Beatles, the Who,
Yeah,
and then later on, obviously, while you're growing up, punk comes along, and you
yeah.
said like the chords were a mix of '60s and punk.
Mm.
When punk came along, did that feel like your own thing? Like your dad had the '60s, you
Yeah, yeah. My dad was a bit younger. He was a bit older than that. He was into Sinatra and stuff like that, but he got into the '60s stuff. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the first I saw when I see Doctor Feelgood in the mid '70s, and then I went to see the Hot Rods, and it was kind of growing in that kind of way. It's really raw R&B stuff, which was a detraction from like Yes and Genesis and that sort of thing going on. And so punk was like actually perfect, really, for us. I bought Anarchy and I bought New Roads when it came out, and it was like it's my music for my time.
So when did you notice this mod revival scene happening?
Well, it was a bit weird for the cause because I met Billy and Martin in early '78, and we just had a common denominator of like the Beatles and the Who, and we obviously were much into as well as into like a lot of the good punk stuff. So I'm just like combining it. They kind of were dressed more like the mod thing than I did. I was more of a kind of a Buzzcocks Generation X type guy. But I mean, um, we were playing a few gigs in '78, and then obviously it was growing with like the Jam were doing all mod con sort of thing, and Quadrophenia was coming out, and people were sort of getting it. People, I guess, who were 14, 15, were a bit too young for punk, wanted something for themselves, and they saw our bands as being, for them, which was hopefully we were. And so that's how it sort of amalgamated into the whole scene in the early '79.
Is it true that you joined the band through an NME advertisement?
Yeah, there was a thing in early '78 called Career Opportunities, the Clash song. And obviously, when you're about I was 15, 16, I think I was 16, you look at the postcodes because anyone's near you. So, and I saw the one in Deptford. So, just got on a bus, went down there and played my way for an audition, which I spent most of the time talking as opposed to playing guitar. Wasn't no change there. And then it was just me, Billy, and Martin, and there was a few drummers we had over the period. One was a schoolmate who ended up my road manager, and then Brett joined us in early '79.
With the advertisement, what was it that made you answer it? Was it just that it was close?
I think it was new wave band with aspirations. I think aspirations because the rest of them was like no breadheads or like anyone can play like Jimmy Page. I was like no. Yeah. So it's kind of I think what aspirations got me. Whether we had any aspirations, I don't know. But.
can, you,
There you go.
can you remember the first gig you did?
Yeah, we did. I think it was called the Woodman, which is now a Lido in Deptford. And we didn't have any songs of our own. We used to rehearse on a Saturday night in a gas board, and it was of schoolmates and drunken people living in who were in the pub. So good times.
Well, you said there you were playing covers, you didn't have your own songs. So when did you start writing?
Yeah, yeah. I started writing about September '78. We done about 5 or 6 gigs as down in Deptford around that, and we're doing anything from New Rose, White Riot to You Really Got Me, the usual cross between the '60s and the '70s. And I was like, well, I always intended or tried to intend to write songs, so I wrote. Now It's Gone was the first thing we actually played. We did a gig in October that year, and we had 3 or 4 of our own songs. So, and then by the time '79 came around, I think when we got signed up to Jimmy Percy or Polydor, well, Jimmy Percy's label, we had about 6 originals.
That's crazy,
So
that, isn't it?
I know. I think it was like less is more, I guess. I don't know. It just woofed into something completely, went from nothing to something in a space of about a week or a month, even.
Did it feel like it was happening fast at the time then?
Oh, it was ridiculous. I was still at school. I mean, I remember the first gig we did it. I was called something in depth for the Golden Line or something. I can't remember what it's called now. And I blamed my mum's car and drove down there with my little amplifier, thinking there's going to be like 4 men and a dog in there. I couldn't get through the door, and it was like 200 mods in there. And then we played the songs, and bang! It was like we were, part of it. We were their band.
What was it like getting that record deal then?
Well, it's a bit strange. We signed originally with Jimmy Percy's label, and I'm not sure if you know the history of it. I don't really want to go too much into it. But we didn't get on with James in the end. He brought the Sex Pistols down at one of our gigs. There was a riot and all sorts of stuff going on. I mean, looking back in hindsight, it was probably, nowadays, I'd have probably thought it was great, let's do it. But you're in a democracy in a band, and a lot of people in the band didn't really want him. And he was trying to push us in more into the kind of, not comedy mob, but it was all kind of dressed up. We weren't really a dressed up kind of mob band. We weren't suited and booted. We were kind of like more of a, t-shirts and jeans and maybe a jacket on. So we had a deal with him and done a single, but it never came out. And we finally got a deal with Polydor, thanks to John Peel, really, because we did a session in, I think, early summer '79. I didn't think much of it, and at the time we just went down a pub, and he played it the week after. And he played it about 5 or 6 times, which is unlike him. And obviously the record companies became very interested. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, because Percy's label was a subsidiary of Polydor. I think there's some terms and conditions that Polydor had the first option. So Polydor picked us up whether they wanted us or not. And that's always a bone of contention, but I will leave it at that.
What? I just want to go back to the songwriting as well, actually.
Yeah.
Paul Weller said, like, you're the best songwriter of your generation and stuff, which is obviously a massive compliment.
That's very nice, yes.
But what advice would you give to somebody starting out writing songs?
Just be yourself. Try and be what comes out of you, lyrically or musically, or your emotions, as opposed to going, I'm going to try and write a song like nowadays Ed Sheeran, or I'm going to try and write a song them days like Big Country. You know what I mean? I'm just picking things out here. To try and be yourself and try and be original with what you're trying to say.
Like, obviously you wrote great hits, you're on top of the pops and stuff. Where did the inspiration come from?
I guess something like Maybe Tomorrow was come from what was happening down in South London at the time, 1978, with fighting the fascists and stuff like that. And the stuff on the So Far Away album was me, ironically, trying to get away from where I was in the band, hence the title of it. So it's what's around you and what impacts you, your family life, or what's going on in the band, or what's going on socially or in the world.
So when you obviously signed with Polydor and you go record an album, have you got all the songs ready, or were you writing in the studio?
I think, yeah, by January 1980 we recorded the album. It was basically the live set. And we had, yeah, I mean, I don't think I wrote anything, because we did it in 2 weeks and we went straight out. I think halfway through the recording we had to go out on tour. So yeah, it was all done. It was all recorded, all finished.
What was it like recording the album? Did you enjoy that part?
I don't remember that much of it. We were at the pub. Yeah, it was done very quickly. I remember, yes, the band were rehearsing downstairs in the place we were. They come up with their cigarettes and co, and have a listen, which was quite nice. So they were totally opposite music. I remember recording various things. Maybe Tomorrow, I remember doing that, and a song called Breaks My Heart, and recording hand claps in the toilet, and like I said, mainly quite a frequent drinks in the pub.
Well, your first 3 singles,
Yeah.
Now It's Gone, Maybe Tomorrow, and Something.
Yeah.
They're not a bad 3 singles to start off with.
Not well, thank you very much. You don't know when you're 16, 17, you haven't got a clue. You think, oh, I try and emulate my heroes, or try and write something about what's going around you, or a girlfriend, or anything like that, and it comes out and people like it, and it's just that's the best thing in the world, isn't it? Really.
Were you on Top of the Pops twice?
Yeah, we did Maybe Tomorrow and Something's Missing. We were going to do British by Life, but there was I think, cameraman strike or something on the BBC. So that didn't happen, which was a bit of a get up because I think British by Life was one of my better ones.
Yeah, he's a good song. Did you like playing Top of the Pops and playing on these TV programs?
It was a bit stale, but I mean, obviously, when you're growing up, especially in the 70s, Top of the Pops was like, you know, it was the holy grail. It's like every Thursday night you sit and watch it, and then it's quite, a weird thing that suddenly you're on it yourself. It's a bit weird both times we're on it. Maybe tomorrow we were a bit nervous, so when we did a good, take of ourselves, I don't know. The time we did Something's Missing, they stuck us between the Nolans and Motorhead, which was a bit weird. That was got a good combination in between that, so that was fun. I mean, the best thing about doing the Top of the Pops the first time was we were on it with AC/DC.
Yeah.
And we went to the bar, the BBC bar. You can see all of the comedians there, everything like that. And Bon Scott and Malcolm Young came over to us, and they were going on about how much they loved the song, which is great because I used to love AC/DC, still do. And we obviously got a few drinks with them, and then Bon was unfortunately not with us 2 weeks later.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. So and then with Motorhead, I think Brett tried to challenge Lemmy to a drinking contest, and well, the rest is history on that
one. With Some Things Missing,
Yeah.
how come Martin was stood at the front on his own and you lot were like at the back?
Who's at the front, sorry?
Martin on bass, and then you lot were at the back.
What, on top of the pops, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
We have no control of anything. We did Checkers Place Pop at the same time, and they just plonk you on these stands and say, right, you're here and you're there. And I don't think you can sort of argue with the Michael Herr was the producer of Top of the Pops. I think it was like, no, you get 3 minutes, and that's what you got.
Top of the Pops was a massive program back then.
Yeah.
Like obviously people, like millions of people watched it. How did you deal with that at a young age, like this newfound fame?
Well, at both times we did Top of the Pops, we were on tour. So you bang, you go straight out the door on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. On Wednesday, Something Smith, we drove to Birmingham and played a gig in Barbarella's at midnight. And I think with Maybe Tomorrow, we're straight back in the studio the next day. I never thought it's like fame. It was just something we were recognised as a band that were on the up at the time, and it was there was a lot of work to be done. So to me, it was like I'm writing the songs. I wanted to sort of like knuckle down, and to a certain extent, try to ignore it and just get on with what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this year you released a compilation album, but then again, it's like going through the years of Chords and Chords UK. How did that come about? Like reimagining these songs?
Well, we've done But Then Again, we've done So Far Away reimaginings both this year, so it's been a really busy year. But Then Again was a combination of, I did 3 albums as Pope, I did 2 with Brett, and one my own sort of the guys, and then we morphed into the Chords UK. There was 3 albums of that and a few singles. And decided to, instead of just putting out tracks on a best of, I'll take this track, that track. Each track that's on it is either remixed or remade or like redreamed. There's something new about it in it. And there's 44 tracks on it. And there's some original Chords acoustic stuff like Maybe Tomorrow, One More Minute. And there's some live stuff from Pope. And there's, I think, like 35 of the tracks are all cold from the 6, 7 sort of albums I've done over the last 20 years, but all done different ways. So it's kind of like, and there's 11 new tracks on it that weren't released before. So it's kind of value for money, which I'm hoping to say there.
Yeah, definitely. You don't usually get that deal like that.
Yeah.
People just usually put a best of out, don't they?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of, I just take 2 from that, 1 from that, and 3 from that, and here you go. And most people go, well, I've got that. And okay, if you're trying to go for a new audience, that's fair enough. But my attitude was like, the people who have followed us over the last 15, 20 years constantly, it's kind of like a gift to them in terms of like, well, there's something new here,
Yeah, definitely. Well, with that, I wanted to talk about like, obviously you're singing the songs on the album and stuff.
Yeah.
When you wrote the songs back in the day, was it just you and an acoustic guitar?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still do that. I've never got in the studio. Probably once jammed around with a band and come up with something. It's just not the way I work. A lot of bands probably do that. I just sit down. It's an acoustic guitar, still is now. I mean, I don't know any other way. I might play a bit of plonky on the piano, which I'm pretty shy at. So yeah, nothing's changed there, mate.
Well, like with a singer, obviously you're writing the words for them, but and they deliver that song. I've seen like Noel Gallagher say before.
Mm,
Obviously Liam's a brilliant singer, but Noel's wrote those songs and he knows the core of those songs. Is that how it
yeah,
feels for you?
I think so. I mean, Billy was a really good interpreter, and he was, he got the anger and he got the spite, everything in it, and he got it right. And when it's something like that, it's great because you know that they've connected to it and that they've got it. When I've worked with other people, it's probably not so much in certain ways, but that's not for me to say that it wasn't good. Uh, I can listen to like a song by Noel Gallagher or Pete Townsend or Bob Dylan, and I can get the emotion and try and put my own reflection on it. So I think in terms of that, it's not just the person who's wrote it that can only understand it. I think the whole thing, the whole process is meant to be someone takes what they think out of it and takes it their own direction.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've you mentioned the live shows before, didn't we? Have you got any favourites over the years?
Pretty recently, one we just done the Underclub, we sold that out, and that was great. We did the whole of So Far Away from back to front. In the Chords days, there was some marquee dates were pretty amazing. Some festivals like we did Loch Lomond in Scotland. Um, Various things over the years. Just, we went to America recently, well, 2022. We did a West Coast tour, and up in San Francisco, and it was like I had to pinch myself that we actually got there. And that was just like, wow, a small little band from 45 years ago playing to 300 people in San Francisco.
What is it like over in America? 'Cause obviously, the chords and that sort of genre of bands are very
Yeah.
British, aren't they? So, what is it like when you go over to America?
Well, the West Coast was good. I lived in America, New York, in the late 80s, but I wasn't playing the stuff I'm doing now. But the West Coast is great. It's they're up for it, they're into it, and they've got some good bands out there as well. So it was a good experience.
You still play like mod shows and mod weekenders and stuff. Did you always get on with these bands like in the scene? And what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, I know Dave Carr's out there super fairly well, and I did recently some shows with Purple Arts. There's some acoustic shows playing with them, so I've known them for like 45 years. It's kind of very hard not to get on with people you see regularly. It's you got to be as you are, and they're fine. Everyone's fine on the scene.
Are you still getting like a new audience as well?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, when we did, but then again, stuff. It's more people who've come from the Oasis and Ocean Colour scene 15 years, 10 years younger than us, and picked up it maybe on Spotify or YouTube or from Facebook or whatever. With the So Far Away thing, it was more of a heritage thing on this tour. But that you do get people, yeah. I mean, a lot of times you get the father bringing the son along. And
Yeah.
they stand there and stare at you as if like you're from outer space. They go, "Do you like it?" They go, "Yeah." So so and it's kind of like you do see a lot of that. But yeah, it's nice to have a different generation having listened to you.
We mentioned the NME. Obviously, the band started. What were the music press like with that scene and with the band?
Well, it's strange that the enemy and sounds at the start both give maybe tomorrow. I think something's missing single of the week. So you've got a certain amount of journalists who will love you, and then with the enemy and sound, I think as it was the early 80s, they wanted to project like this is we need new music. We need something that's off its time, and I guess the Chords were seen no more than the Jam were as something that was based from the past in the present, and they wanted something that was possibly Joy Division or that kind of thing. So there's a lot of people who were anti the kind of movement or anti the band, but I can understand that, but it's like in the end, it's actually about the songs for me. It's not exactly what clothes you wear, but I mean, I think with a lot of the press, they want to stick you in a pigeonhole.
Yeah, yeah. Are you seeing any like new bands coming through now? Because, like you said before, your dad had the 50s and 60s, you had
Yeah,
the punk stuff, and then along came the 80s stuff, and then the British bands came along again, like Ocean Colour Scene,
yeah.
Oasis stuff. there's always been these generations, but what's happening now for you?
Well, there's a lot of new sort of mob bands around, like the Molotovs and a Sharp Class. I mean, they're kind of doing their thing. You can see where it's coming from, and it's good that they're young and it keeps it going. And they are basically looking back and then bringing, I guess, writing the lyrics about what they're doing now, which is kind of how we were doing it, you know.
The first thing of the Chords before it was Chords UK splitting. Well, it started to fall apart, but in 1980, didn't it?
81. We had Billy left in late October 80. Then a guy called Kip Herring came in. We did a couple of singles with him, and then it kind of like got to September 81. And I think we could have gone and done some indie album or something. I'd had enough of it by then, so me and Brett split it and went off to do something else.
When Billy left, did it feel like that was the end, though?
Not really. No, I mean, one regret I do have, which I didn't have at the time, I should actually say, right, they're my songs, I should sing them, but I just didn't feel confident enough at the time. Um, I suppose we kind of lost not direction, just the feel of the band when he left in that way, and we were actually changing quite a lot of our sound around 1980, mid 80. We were using different guitar effects and stuff like "Turn Away Again," "One More Minute" are quite different to "Now It's Gone," and the second album would have been different, and so it should have been, you know. So there was always a direction we were going in, but I think music was changing very quickly in 80, 81. It went a lot of new romantic sort of came in, and there was like the rockabilly scene and stuff like that. And I think the perception of mod it was yesterday's music more than it was yesterday's music, even more, if you know what I mean. It was kind of like we were stuck in that bracket, and I just felt no one was really listening to us as a band. They would listen to us with conception or preconception that we were just a mob band, which that's in the terms of like in the end I was like, well, it's best just to let it go, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Was that a fallout then backstage or with Billy?
um I just think at the time, I mean, you'd have to ask Billy really how he felt about it. We're totally okay now. I think both of us sort of regret what you do, but when you're 18, 19, and you've got no manager, you're under pressure, you know, to get a hit record, and you haven't got very little money. And he got, you know, I think he was married and stuff like this. All determines into one thing. It's not actually about the music. A lot of it. It's about, you know, what's going on around you. So I think we weathered the storm. It would have been a different story, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what was it like for you going solo?
Well, I didn't do the solo stuff really until 2000. About 20. Funny enough, it's 20 years ago next month that the first Pope album came out. Grace of God, a good plug. Uh, uh, yeah, I by 1990, I'd been in a couple of bands through the 80s. I went to America with one of them for about a year of it, and I was playing guitar in it. And I just got to the end and got sort of 99. So if I'm going to keep on doing this, I've got to do me. It's got to be. I got to sing it. I got to carry on with it. And from there on in, I've sung the songs myself. And so the solo stuff, by the time I got around doing it 10 years later, it was quite easy to slip into.
So we mentioned you go solo then. How did the Chords UK come about? Like, what made you
Well,
go back to the Chords?
in 2010, we got offered a tour of Australia and Japan with the Chords, and for one reason or another, Martin, the bass player, couldn't do it. So Mick Stoner was playing with me and Pope, or he came in and played bass, and we went over to Japan first. And Billy lives in Japan, and when Billy comes over and play in England, we'd play every 2 or 3 years, one-off concerts. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to do one-off concerts anymore. I want to do it regularly and keep and start the band and progress it and write new songs and keep it going." And he had a band called the J Chords because he was doing his version over there. So I thought, ironically, I call it the Chords UK, which kind of it was like it's going to be the Chords, but it's not. It's like a new variation, new version of
Yeah.
it. And so that's how it came about. When I was sitting in Japan, so I want to take this on and do it. And I always had the intention of obviously playing all the old songs, but writing new songs and recording them.
Yeah, like you've released 3 albums, mentioned the
Yeah.
compilation album as well. So what is life like in the Chords UK now?
Well, it's great. We just finished this tour. I'm playing we're playing in Cambridge on Friday, and I'm playing in Cambridge on Saturday with the Ruts DC solo gig. So we've had a really busy year, and it's been great. It's, you know, like any band of our ilk or a thing, you kind of like, you're not going to suddenly hit 400,000 people on Spotify. You've got your own audience, and you got what you got. But looking at it realistically, it's great because there was also some unfinished business there with the Chords, and I feel with the Chords UK, I've got it out there, and I've got new music going, and I'm playing the old ones how I want to play them. So it's all been very good, and the guys are fantastic in the band. They've been there for 13 years now, so which is quite a, an achievement for a band that to keep the same guys in a band for such a long time, you know, which shows their dedication and hard work, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned you got the shows there. Can we expect any new music at any point?
Well, we just put out this year about 60 songs that if you put them all together, there was about another 8 or 9 songs that were new that I'll have to look at, see if they're, you know, they recorded them, if I feel they're, you know, good enough. But I will be putting out a couple of singles next year, vinyl and on the CD.
Yeah, nice one, yeah. Well, so you've got those 2 shows. Have you got any other shows next year or anything coming up?
We've got Minehead are doing a big a Moth Festival. Ocean Colour Scene are playing it. We're doing it. The usual suspects are down there. Got some stuff in April, stuff in May. I'm looking at doing Europe in June and October, and I think we got a British tour, depending on finding out around the same time, October, November next year.
All right, nice one. Yeah, well, it all sounds good, and thank you so much for joining me. It's been brilliant to speak to you.
Brilliant. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye bye.